This video is on multiplying and dividing algebraic fractions with factorization required beforehand. Question 3a. Before we can combine the numerators and the denominators, like you would normally do in an algebraic fraction multiplication question, you need to factorize first. So we're going to factorize everything we can. So 3m minus 6, I can take out a 3, and that becomes 3m minus 2 divided by 4 times by 8m over, on the bottom we can see another common factor of m, and so m minus 2. Now after we've factorized, we can then cancel. Now the good news is that because everything's already in a factorized form, we don't even need to take the step of joining the numerators and the denominators, because they're all just factors that are multiplied together. So we can simply cancel anything from the top all the way across this line with anything on the bottom all the way across that line. So I can cross out, for example, I can take the m minus 2 off there and cancel with that. I can cancel this m with that m. It's one m off the top, one m off the bottom. Now in terms of numbers that I've got left, on the top I can see that I've got 8 divided by an 8 and a 4, and they sort of nicely divide into each other. So 8 over 4 is the same thing as 2 over 1. So really I'm just left with 3 times 2 divided by 1, which is just 3 times 2 is 6, divided by 1, it's still 6. So the main steps are, number 1, factorize everything. And then step 2, cancel common factors. Okay, moving on. We're now faced with a division question. When we've got division, we need to flip and multiply before we can start simplifying. So before I do anything, I'm going to, number 1, factorize everything. And then I'm going to flip and multiply. And then I'm going to cancel. These two top steps are interchangeable though. If you want to set it up first as a multiplication, or we can just start factorizing. So m squared minus 25, that's the difference of 2 squares. So it's m minus 5, m plus 5. You can see now why we needed our factorization to be fluent, so we can do this work. Now that's divided by m, take out a common factor, m minus 1, and now divided by 5, m plus 5, all over m minus 1. There are brackets. Now we've done all that work, we can flip the second term and multiply. So it's a little bit of writing, but if we just write this out nice and quick, fast forward the video, times by that m minus 1 goes to the numerator, and this other factor goes to the bottom. Please change it to a multiplication, this line. It can get really confusing if you're trying to cancel factors with a division. Okay, now we can start cancelling. So I can see this m plus 5 here, it's that one. we've got m minus 1 here, can cancel with that one off the top, one off the bottom. And I can't see anything else, so I'll just rewrite what I've got left. M minus 5 over 5m. Excellent. Now let's try some questions with addition and subtraction. Let's start with addition. So the way addition works, so if I wanted to add a half to 3/4, before I can add them together, I've got to make the denominators the same. So it'll become 2 over 4 plus 3 over 4, and then I can combine them, 5 over 4. So that is some sort of simple steps that we need to be aware of as we try and solve this. So as we're solving this question, we're going to first make a common denominator. So it's got to have every factor that's on either of the two fractions. So a common denominator is going to be x times by x minus 1. So in order to make them the same, we've got to look at the first fraction and we've got to see, well, what factor is missing from that total denominator that I wanted? Well, it's x minus 1. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by x minus 1. So that fraction becomes 3 lots of x minus 1 over x minus 1. So I haven't actually changed the value of this because I've just multiplied by x minus 1 over x minus 1, which is just the same thing as multiplying by 1. Now the second part, I've got the factor that's missing is x, so I times the top and the bottom by x. So x there on the top, and I had an x minus 1, and I'm going to times that by x. So now my denominators have the same factors on the first and second fraction. Now we can combine them, so we get 3 x minus 1 plus 5x all over x minus 1. When we're combining the denominators, you'll notice that we can, we just write it once, we don't actually change it. Okay, so now, normally in these questions, we just expand and collect like terms on the numerator. So we're just simplifying the top into its simplest form. Remember that you can't just cancel factors at this point. Even though you can see an x minus 1 on the top and the bottom, you can't do that because the top isn't fully factorized. So expanding 3x minus 3 plus 5x over x minus 1. Collecting like terms, 8x minus 3 over x minus 1. Can't do any more. Hypothetically, if I had a common factor on the numerator now, and I could factorize that out and cancel, then I would do that. Moving on. Let's look at a subtraction now. The first step, before we can do anything else, is we're going to factorize everything. So if we factorize first, then we can make it a common denominator. So the denominator on the first one becomes x plus 1. It's taking out a common factor of x. The second one becomes, it's a difference of 2 squares, x minus 1, x plus 1. So now our common denominator is going to be x plus 1, x minus 1. So it's got to include a factor of x minus 1, a factor of x plus 1, and a factor of x. So this first one here, what's it missing? It's missing a factor of x minus 1. So we times that by the top and the bottom. And so we've got x plus 1, x minus 1. And now the second one, it's missing a factor of x. So it's going to be 3 times x all over x plus 1, x minus 1. So now our denominators are the same, so we can combine them. So the numerator will be 4 lots of x minus 1 minus 3x all over x plus 1, x minus 1. Okay, collecting and simplifying the numerator is going to give me 4x minus 4 minus 3x over x plus 1, x minus 1. So now collect like terms. So we have x minus 4 over x plus 1, x minus 1, x plus 1, x minus 1, and we're done. So our goal was to be able to simplify algebraic fractions that have multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Try your exercises.